Welcome to the High Tech Freedom Podcast. This is a podcast where we bring successful tech sales professionals, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs to share best practices, insights, and lessons learned with other tech sales professionals. As a sales professional, the more we learn, the more we earn. Once we earn it, how can we put those hard-earned commission dollars back to work to build additional income streams that will create the freedom we are all working to achieve? I'm your host, Chris Freeman. I'm a high-tech sales leader, real estate investor, and lifetime learner. All right, welcome to the High Tech Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Freeman. And for our next episode, I'm really excited to have Alejandro Quiroga with us. And he is currently a strategic account sales rep for a data and AI company. I'm really excited to learn from Alejandro because I know he's really kicked butt in a number of roles in his sales career. Welcome to the High Tech Freedom Podcast, Alejandro.
Hi, Chris. Good to be on. Really excited to be here today. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Excitement is all mine. Well, hey, I didn't really give much of a background there. Why don't you tell my audience a little bit more about yourself and your background in technology sales?
Sure. Thank you. So I've been in enterprise software sales for well over 15 years, probably getting close to 20, and been in sort of the data side of enterprise software. So information retrieval and enterprise search, data warehousing, cloud computing, now really the big data in the cloud. So next generation data and AI platform, that is cloud native on the major cloud providrouters.
Yeah, so you've really carved out a kind of a career niche in that space, just the data space, it sounds like.
Yeah, there's, throughout my career, I've worked with a lot of different colleagues who, come from various industries. And, I've just been passionate about, at first it was enterprise search. There's a lot of intellectual curiosity when it comes to search technology. It's a real blend of science and art. The algorithms of relevancy and, getting the user experience right. And it was quite, again, intellectually stimulating for me. And that just sort of naturally led as the industry evolved into big data and analytics and, data lakes and cloud computing. And, because I had stayed in that industry or domain for such a consistent time, you find yourself getting recruited for key roles because you have that experience.
Yeah, I think just, one thing I just picked up on there is that idea of specializing, right? If you're you're in sales, you're in technology sales, but you've definitely have specialized your career over a period of time in a certain segment. And as a result, you probably got better at it, probably got noticed in that field, and definitely became more recruitable. I'm curious. So I'm sure, data related needs, I'm sure customers are just calling you, wanting to buy stuff all the time. You just have to sit back and take POs. I'm saying that tongue in cheek. I imagine it's one of those sales where you have to go out and create a little bit of value, kind of create a problem that may not necessarily be clear in the customer's eyes. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think what I found through my career with enterprise search, there was definitely more hunting of not only the problem or use case, but of the stakeholder, where you could communicate a value proposition that was going to resonate. And the notion that enterprise search would be a solution to a business problem wasn't always well understood. And so certainly, for a good portion of my career, going after and prospecting and trying to help educate the market, and then educate your account, and then educate that buyer as to how enterprise search, addressed various use cases. There was a lot of evangelizing, a lot of education that went into that sale. Today, due to the propensity of people talking about data, due to the popularity in some regards of AWS and Microsoft Azure and Google GCP and the New York Times and Washington Post and Forbes writing about data as the new oil, and now data science and AI. It's not too difficult to find the right buyer persona and people who have pain. And so due to sort of that first generation of cloud data architectures, and more than your fair share, the majority of enterprises out there still having legacy on-prem architectures, it makes identifying pain and articulating a solution to address that pain pretty straightforward. And so it makes those early conversations accelerate the engagement in ways I've never experienced in my career before.
Yeah. I'm curious. So when you're out selling data and AI services or what your company offers, what is the typical title or buyer of those types of services?
Yeah. So we go after, a VP type or senior director, right? Data engineering, data science, chief data officer, enterprise architect, chief digital officer, right? Depending on the type of company. But those responsible for the infrastructure that manages data, as well as then your data scientists who have to work with that data and apply, their PhDs to building models and deploying and integrating those models into business applications. So, there's a lot of those buyer personas out there these days, and it's about, finding the right ones that the message is going to resonate, and again, have the pain to engage into a sales process.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's one of the things that's so great about the technology space. I mean, if you're an early career person, you're looking at a sales role, there are so many different directions you can go within technology. I mean, what I do and what you do, there's a little bit of maybe some similarities, but at the end of the day, we're talking to different customers within maybe the same account, which is really fascinating. So I guess I'm curious, and this maybe would apply to some of those early career sales reps. You went to school not to be a sales rep, but I was looking at your LinkedIn resume, and you went to school and got a degree in writing and poetry. How did you go from that into tech sales?
Well, I went to a small liberal arts college. So, and I didn't ever think about computer science as a degree. I didn't have the math acumen, right, to pursue that. And certainly didn't have the math acumen to do well at economics. So I found myself in poetry. And at the time in college, I was really passionate about real estate and commercial real estate development. And I had summer internships with the developer. I worked for one of the largest, commercial real estate companies in the country in college. When I left college, when I graduated, the market was very soft in commercial real estate. It was quite a down market. I wanted to stay in the business or in the industry. So I just got my license and then started selling residential real estate. And through that, made some connections where fellow brokers, their husbands were executives at software companies. We became friendly, and they saw what I was doing, selling real estate, and they, invited me to interview and, one-to-one for about 6 months, and then realized it wasn't the right fit. Called my other friend. He interviewed me, or his company interviewed me. Found myself, with a, full-time job, base salary, benefits, and real structure to a career versus, commission only, work in the weekends, and really you're an independent contractor in some respects as a realtor. And 24, 25 years old, the software job was just too good to pass up, and never looked back.
Yeah, so you're selling homes and you're seeing these people buying these big homes and nice cars, and it's like, well, what are they doing? I need to get into that job.
Yeah, that was how I got interested in real estate. Is I had a friend, and her dad had this amazing, residents and houses in Florida and all that. So I said, what do you do? And he's like, commercial real estate. So, I was like, oh, let me get into that. And I did get quite passionate about it. But then, early in the software role, you see the top performers and, the success that they had. And you're like, I want to emulate that.
Yeah, I love it. Well, some of my listeners know that I personally am an active investor in commercial real estate. And so if anybody wants to learn more about investing in real estate, I have a newsletter. You can go to our website at hightechfreedom.com and subscribe to our newsletter. We won't spam you, but I do have a newsletter that goes out that provides tips and insight into that market. All right, well, let's get into some the meat and potatoes here. So I know I heard you on another sales podcast, and I reached out to you and we got to talking a little bit. You've had some really successful years, some big years. I understand you've been a number one rep more than once. What's been your biggest year in terms of quota attainment percentage?
Yeah, it was well over, it was close to 360%, several years over 200 and many over 100. Now, those big years are tremendous. And, they talk about it's timing and territory and luck and whatever that saying is. And it's true, right? You can find that right engagement, that right project at that right account, and you can build that right connection with your buyer, your champion, and make it happen. But it's not always like that. I've had some years of just misses. Fortunately, never been a bottom, no strikeout. But those big years are awesome, and you got to learn and build from them, and carry those learnings forward to the next year.
Great advice. Couldn't agree more. And you make the comment about maybe you get a little bit lucky. Well, there's lots of people that have been in the position to have the opportunity to be lucky, but you have to grab it and you have to wring as much out of it as you can. I mean, you have to work as hard as once you have your eye on the prize and you know that you have a real deal or a number of deals for the year that could be a make it or break it. You got to get up early, stay up late. I mean, that's the time to really take advantage of a great opportunity that's sitting right in front of you, but you have to go make it happen.
Couldn't agree more. I don't really believe in luck in this job, right? You have to set yourself up. You have to put yourself in the position that when the opportunity is open, you can and how to execute, right? You have to grind, be the first one in the office, or these days the first one at your home office, and you have to stay late. And I do that. I think I've had many managers, including my current one, that says no one's going to outwork Alejandro, right? And I take pride in that, and I respectfully command or expect my colleagues who work with me on these accounts to give it their best. And, not everyone can be up at at the crack of dawn or burning the midnight oil, working on it. But when you come to present, when you come to a meeting, we have to be polished. We have to know our stuff inside and out. We have to be the domain experts and thought leaders so that you can, to borrow from the challenger sale, right? Teach, tailor, and take control of that conversation and really lead the sales cycle versus the customer leading you through their process. And when that clicks for young reps to understand that it's your sales process and you have to drive it and not be riding shotgun of your customers, bake off or RFP process, and you can maneuver it yourself, that's when you can make things happen, right? That's sort of what I've taken away.
Yeah, well, and I think that's probably part of your answer to my question. What is the secret to some of your success? And just following up on what you just said there for a minute. So let's say, there is a deal that maybe you come in and maybe you haven't been able to quite take control out of the gate, maybe it's going down a different path. Have you had a situation where you've been able to sort of take it from the customer's hands where they're going down their path of POCs and RFPs and being able to take it back and kind of re-swizzle the sales cycle so that you can own it?
Yeah, definitely. On a couple occasions, one in particular, was fortunate enough to have a customer call me because she attended a training session, and another client of mine said, "Hey, you got to check out this company and call Alejandro. He's great." And so fortunate to have that referral, right? Which is really important, right? To build those relationships of trust. So we started the sales this person called and we started the sales cycle and did our pitch deck and some discovery and demos. And then they said, okay, we want to include you in the RFP. And we've already sent this out to some other vendors. We've learned about you guys and connected with you late, but we want to include you. We're like, great. We get the RFP and we saw that some of their key requirements were absent, or the ability to sort of join two different data sets that we knew that was important to them through our discovery was absent in the POC. I'm sorry, in the RFP. And so we called them and said, look, we can't move forward unless you're going to include these other requirements into the RFP. And thank you so much for the opportunity, but we'd love you to consider that. But if not, we're not going to participate, because if you're not the one writing the RFP, you're just column fodder, right? And you're column B, C, or D. So they were a bit taken aback, and they then conceded and agreed to allow us to include it. We executed our RFP, and then the subsequent sort of proof of concept that now had those requirements in them. And we knew we're the only vendor that could do that.
Oh, I love it.
We, our art of war, flank the competition, whatever your book of power you want to read about, but, flank the competition, change the game so that it's in your favor. And as we did that, we then also began to educate the customer as to, why these features and capabilities were important. How could it impact other aspects of their data architecture, their application strategy, their end user, their business, that set us apart. And we closed that deal in 4 months, which was vastly, sort of faster than our normal 6 to 9 to maybe 12-month sales cycle. Mm. So that'd be one example. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That's A-level selling right there, man. That's the way to do it. So really nice work. Well, one of the things that's top of mind for me and some of my listeners, and actually some of the people on my sales team, is we're always talking about building more pipeline. And, it's the health of any sales rep is your success is directly related to the health of your pipeline. So I'm curious, you've been doing this long enough. You've seen a lot of things change over time as far as what works. If you don't mind sharing any of your secrets, what's one tip that you're really relying on now to build incredible pipeline?
Well, I think the first rule, before we can get to tips, the first rule of building pipeline is blocking the time and making the time and prioritizing the time to prospect. I'm sure you have come across your fair share of reps who talk a good game about prospecting, but they're always busy doing other things. We at my company, we have prospecting day. We have it built into our calendar. And I truly know that is seeding the seeds for 2 quarters, 3 quarters next year from now. And if I don't put that time in, right, there's no way that you're going to be able to be in, to exceed your quota, right? Mm-hmm. You can't count on the big deal to make your number. right? And stringing together a bunch of little deals is a lot of work. You have to have that blend. And the only way to have that blend is to have the pipeline to support it. So that's my number one rule. Make the time. And I was fortunate where I started my career in inside sales. These days they call it a sales development rep or SDR, whatever you want to call it. I started, cut my teeth, smiling and dialing for dollars, right? And getting told no a lot. And you just have to be resilient. You have to say, next dial, right? So that's part of also the tough skin, right? That you got to develop, the callus that you got to develop for this type of career. In terms of tips, the tried and true is research. Mm-hmm. Research. Know your account. Know your buyer persona. Know the people that you're going to reach out to. If you're sending generic emails and you're not getting a response and you don't know why, you gotta change your tactic. I don't know, like maybe find another profession or something. I don't know, but you gotta know your persona.
Hello, sales pros. I hope you are enjoying the High Tech Freedom podcast. If you are interested in learning more about passively investing in multifamily real estate, you can download our educational ebook at hightechfreedom.com. While there, you can also sign up for our newsletter where we will provide insights on real estate investing, as well as sales tips so that you can continue to crush it in your high-tech sales role. Now, I often hear people say, I'll get to that later, or I'll read that book later. Well, there's no time like the present to improve your knowledge, so I hope you take advantage of at least the newsletter. In the meantime, please reach out if I can help out in any way. Now let's get back to the show.
I had someone through my college, through the alumni networking system that they have, reach out, and he sent a very generic note to me. Hey, what are your tips on networking? And I responded like, dude, look at my profile, right? And so I actually sent him back a note on LinkedIn. And he's a math major, but he's also really interested in sports. So I sent him a note back and said, hey, Matt, great to connect. Hope you're enjoying your time at Trinity College. And, I see you're a math major and you're into sports. Like, hey, check out this blog article about my company at Databricks and what we're doing for the Minnesota Twins with advanced analytics.
Oh, connected the two of them. Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Because I took 2 moments to look at his LinkedIn profile. Now, I reach out to people and say, hey, I saw you went to University of Wisconsin and my brother's a Badger. And so that's my adopted school, right? I talked to someone today and said, hey, I see you're based out of Puerto Rico. That's where my dad was born, right? You got to find something to make it personal. Now, if you can't make it personal, you got to make it contextual. So, hey, you're in this industry. Well, for your peers, we're doing X, Y, and Z, right? So you share a relatable story that means something to that person. So to me, research. Make your communication short, sweet, and personable or personal.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I imagine at times you're making it personal and contextual. Personal to get their attention, and then getting down into some specifics. Are you doing this through LinkedIn, through email, through some other tool?
Yeah, I find LinkedIn to be just the easiest in terms of, the place to find people, the place to research and learn a little bit about them, and then the place to communicate. But I also follow up on email. So if you're getting an email from me, there's probably a LinkedIn message or a Sales Navigator message also from me. It's even if it's pretty much the same message at the same day, that's how I'm gonna do it. A lot of people talk about using social media. I just haven't found it at that. Maybe you want to tweet the CIO or some executive who has an account, sure. Or there's other ways. I find email, phone,
Mm-hmm.
I find today a lot of people are afraid of picking up the phone, right? Oh, let me just hit you on Slack, or I'll send you an email, or right, just pick up the phone. They're going to answer, right? And if you get someone and you can, like when you and I talked, right? We had a connection. There was something there. So when I follow up with you, you know who I am, right? Now there's a voice there to that email.
Yeah. And, who knows, your customer might even be surprised that it's not a robocall calling them if they do pick up, right? So it's an actual live person. You do your research, make it personal, have some contextual background to it, and talk.
Yeah. And it's not about trying to have a 30-minute conversation with a person. I call up and say, hey, I'm really busy and I know you are too. Just wanted to introduce myself. Let's put 15 on the calendar next week. I know you got your calendar up, because who doesn't sit there with their calendar up? You got your email, you got your calendar, and 50 other browser pages, right? Pull up your calendar. I got it. You got it up? Okay. Tuesday, 1:00, I'll send you an invite, 15 minutes. So that's what all it takes.
Yeah. Good stuff. Really appreciate the insight. Well, hey, kind of shifting gears a little bit. So, as you're successful and you're earning those great commission dollars, I'd be curious to hear about how you, invest both in yourself and, some of those commission dollars into whatever is important to yourself.
Well, I was thinking about this question, and I'm sure there's a whole podcast that could be dedicated to how salespeople should not spend their money, their commission dollars, right? the fancy cars and the watches and the, all the things. But, the smart way to build off of those commissions is, there's lots of smart ways. I don't know if mine are smart, but what I've done in my career, I've made some investments in some very early technology companies. A couple panned out, a couple not. It's okay. It wasn't. It was okay, right? But part of my investment was also my time. So, I've been an advisor to a couple of early stage technology companies that are trying to go from idea to working demo to trying to figure out a go-to-market. And some of the, a couple in one case, that advisory role, allowed me to then to take on the GM role of a small startup out of Norway. And I was managing our US go-to-market, re-productizing the offering from a consultative offering to, a SaaS B2B offering, and overseeing marketing. And so, that was a tremendous investment because it led to an amazing experience. And some of the other investments are still sort of chugging along there, and we'll see how they go. And I'm always cheerleading them on LinkedIn and things like that to promote, the teams that I've invested my dollars and my time to.
Yeah. Well, that's such an interesting point, because this is something it's really important to me, because I've worked with a number of younger sales reps, and I watch when, in fact, I've managed a number of them, and, they move from inside sales to outside sales. And now, their paycheck is starting to grow. And next thing you know, they're showing up with the M3, they've got the condo on the beach. And I was like, oh man, you just had a great year. You just spent it all. I know, and they're excited, and it's okay to, enjoy some of the hard fruits of your labor. But, I think I look back and I wish I could have taken even more of my commission dollars when I was younger and got that money working for me, just because it just creates more opportunity to do more things.
Absolutely. I was talking to a friend, and, a guy who I've worked with at 2 or 3 different companies. And, he's at the point where his son now is early in his sales career. And the company he worked for moved him to, I think it was Austin, and he had a banner year. And my friend and I are talking on the phone. And he goes, yeah, my son, he got himself a Tesla. And then the next, 2 months later, I was talking, he's like, yeah, he's bought himself a boat. And he and I are laughing like, what a dummy, right? We've made that mistake, right? Now, I haven't bought a boat, but, I bought my fair share of toys. And to your point, if only I had the wisdom of experience to go, you know what, maybe I didn't need that. I could invest it this way. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So when I talk to colleagues, when I first get paired up with a solution architect, right, my technical counterpart, one of the first things I ask is, what are your goals? And what do you want to be able to do with your commission check? Right. I've gotten buy a motorcycle rig, right? Or, take buy an engagement ring for my girlfriend, or, buy mine for a while, buy my first house, right? But understanding those goals of your colleague when you're working as a team can really be, motivational to, you're in the foxhole together, right? You gotta be able to trust each other. And I want my colleagues to succeed. I want them to be able to, buy whatever it is they buy. Like that to me is the most rewarding, one of the most rewarding aspects of the job is when we crush it. And I know that my colleague is, using those commission dollars for what their goals were.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about how, you're going to be up early, you're going to stay up late, you're going to, really grind it out, and you have a pretty high expectation on the team around you. And, as you know, and hopefully a lot of the people listening understand, is it takes a team to win.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, you could try to just be a lone wolf and get to plan and maybe do okay, but to really crush it 200, 300+% of plan, there's people that are in the foxhole with you. And I think your point about knowing what drives them makes it significantly easier for you to push them, to drive them, and help them achieve what they're trying to get in life or whatever their personal goal might be. And so taking the time to ask those questions and understand that's just being a good human.
Yeah, I hope so, right? I mean, we all come to work with our own goals and aspirations and motivations. And I work on complex sales, right? A complex sales cycle. The deals that I work on have 15 to 30 people touch them throughout that sales cycle. And, those additional team members or resources, they're getting pulled in other directions by other account executives. If I don't carry myself with a level of professionalism, respect, and empathy for my colleagues, well, maybe they don't show up for my meeting and they go to another meeting. Maybe they're not going to work that hard to turn around that statement of work or create that presentation or the 3 slides that they're needed for their role, right? Because they're getting pulled in different directions. They have, in some respects, they have options, right? So I always come to those type of conversations with internally, knowing that my colleagues have other asks of their time. And so I want to be respectful. I want to listen. I was on a call earlier today, and there was a leader on the call. This is at a customer, and he had his team on. And multiple times he asked for his team's input, but then didn't pause to allow their teammate to speak. He kept talking. And I thought to myself, I really hope I don't do that. Because my colleagues bring a different set of experiences and perspective. And the more that we can leverage that constructively, the better, the more efficient, the more polished, the stronger we will be, right? So I oftentimes say, let me shut up and hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah. Sometimes it can be hard to do when you get excited and you're really passionate about what it is that you're out there selling, but these are true words. So as we wrap it up, I always like to kind of get a sense from the guests on, anything you're doing to give back. Is there anything that you're excited about or passionate about in terms of giving back?
Well, I try to give my time right now the best I can. So, I'm just blessed to be at an organization that has a true mentorship program. So when new AEs come into the organization, one of our company corporate values is be an owner. And, my equity is only going to grow if everyone is contributing and growing the business. So I take a sense of ownership that as a mentor, when I'm assigned a new mentee, I really invest that time and don't blow off the meeting and don't blow off the checklist. Really invest that time to help my colleague come up to speed, understand the product, the company, the culture, the people, the process, all that good stuff. And I'm doing that also with my college, as an alumni, networking with kids who are, going through trying to find summer internships, trying to find a job, and having conversations with them and making myself available and just trying to share a little bit of the experiences and some do's and some don'ts of what it might take out there. I've been a sort of outside of professional work. I am a patron of the Massachusetts College of Art, which is one of the only publicly funded art schools in the country, and has had some amazing artists come out of that. So, my house has art from student sold art at their annual auction that was $300 that I just found to be really fabulous piece of photography, to several $1,000 art. And that's been a little bit of how I've invested money in art. It's not like these days in NFTs or anything like that. But, that's how, try to support the arts. And with my son, we look, his birthday is sort of near Thanksgiving. And so we try to make sure that we take time to get some toys for Toys for Tots, which is a group here in Massachusetts that provides toys to kids in need, and take old stuff that we don't need anymore, and take my son with me to that donation center and show him, there's a lot of people out there that are far less fortunate than we are. And you got to be aware of that and have empathy for your colleagues, for your customers, for your neighbors, and the people around you.
It's funny, you can go tell your, say, 10-year-old kid that all day long, but they don't understand until they see it. And so you taking them to get the experience of it is so much more impactful than just giving them some lesson that they can't even process.
Or just taking old toys and putting them in a box and saying, all right, we're going to donate these. No, you got to take the time to, the way it's set up, it's a big bin at certain locations, but then I go on the website and show him sort of what it's about, and, exposing him to those who are less fortunate, right? Again, empathy.
Well, as we close out here, Alejandro, how can listeners reach out to you if they would like to connect?
Hit me on LinkedIn. I'm there prospecting. So send me a message. Alejandro Quiroga. My company is Databricks. And, I got my profile there. You can email me at aq@databricks.com. So LinkedIn, send me an email. Always welcome new connections and people who are passionate about the craft of sales, because it is a craft, and you got to keep honing it and learning and listening from others and applying it. There's lots of sales books out there, and I tell people, or I've always taken the approach of you don't take it verbatim. Take what resonates with you, right? So, the same is true when you're building connections and you're reaching out to me. I don't have all the answers, and it's not so just, if something resonates, I hope it does. And I'd love to learn from others as well.
Yeah. And I've always had that philosophy, just try one new thing, right? Take one thing, put your style to it, put it into practice, kind of see how it works. And, if you're just trying one innovative thing a day, a week, a month, you can't underestimate the impact it'll have. And, I totally agree that, as sales professionals, it's a lifelong career of learning. If you want to continue to grow and scale and make more money, that's the theme of the podcast is you need to learn from the best in order to earn like that best. By the way, that learning never stops. So keep doing it.
It never stops. I block time on my calendar to have a virtual cup of coffee with some of the top performers in my organization and just hear about them. What are you like? So how do you approach this? How do you structure that? And I had a colleague last week send me 5 slides template from a book that he's been reading. And I look at it and go, this is awesome. And I sat with my SA and go, we're applying this methodology this coming fiscal year. And it's like, click, click, let's go. And just from reaching out to people.
Yeah, I love it. Well, hey, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for giving back today, Alejandro. Look forward to catching up again.
Chris, it was a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thanks again for joining us today. To get more sales and real estate tips, you can subscribe to our newsletter at hightechfreedom.com. You can also join our private Facebook and LinkedIn group that is exclusively for sales professionals. If you found a nugget of good information in the podcast, please subscribe, give us a positive rating, and write a review. If there is a topic that you would like us to cover in the future, please send us a note through our website at hightechfreedom.com. Until next week, make this your best week ever.